She raised her voice at him like he was an intruder. Called him out? Threatened to have him thrown off the flight? But when this teenager calmly reached for his phone and dialed his uncle ... that plane didn't just delay, it froze. It never left the ground. Black Torrance never asked for drama. At 16, his perfect flight meant headphones in, seat by the window, and nobody bothering him until landing. He had just spent a peaceful week helping his grandma recover from surgery, pulling weeds, hauling groceries, and teaching her how to pause Netflix. No noise, no spotlight. Just being a good grandson. But that morning at Sacramento International, something didn't feel right. Not loud, just ... cold stares. A gate agent with a tight-lipped smirk. Unspoken tension floating in the air. Still, Malik did what his grandma always told him. Walk with grace. Don't give Em a reason to treat you like a stereotype. He boarded the plane quietly, ticket in hand, heading to seat 1 for A's favorite spot by the window. But when he got there, someone was already sitting in it. A groggy man with headphones on, dozing. Malik hesitated, checked his app again, then turned to a flight attendant who was approaching. She looked like she'd been doing this for decades. Hair pinned tight, silver badge on her chest, name Reed, T. Delacroix. Excuse me? Malik said calmly. I think someone's in my seat. She didn't even glance at his ticket. That's not your seat, she snapped. You're supposed to be in the back. Malik blinked. The app says 1 for A. You can check. Her voice rose. Don't talk back. I don't care what your phone says. Go sit where I tell you or you're off this plane. Heads turned. Passengers peeked up from behind headrests. Still, no one said a word. Malik's chest tightened, not out of fear, but from the weight of being humiliated like he didn't belong. I'm just asking to verify it, he said, keeping calm. Please scan the ticket. But she raised her hand and shouted, Do you want to be removed for known compliance? He looked around. Eyes were on him. Phones were out, but still, silence. So he pulled out his phone again and called Uncle X. When Xavier Torrance picked it up, the energy shifted. What's going on? Xavier's voice was calm, surgical. Malik kept it short. She's yelling, said I don't belong in the seat, won't check my boarding pass. I haven't even raised my voice. A man behind Malik muttered, Just let the kid sit. Malik didn't budge. Are you on a call? Delacroix barked. I'm talking to my attorney, Malik answered. Steady. She laughed, mocking, dismissive. Who's your attorney? Through the phone, a voice answered for him. Xavier Torrance. Civil Rights Division. I suggest you slow down before this escalates. Delacroix faltered. Just for a moment, then she turned, called out to the cockpit. Captain, I need a passenger removed. None. But the murmurs in the cabin had grown. Someone near the window leaned forward. He's not even sitting. He's standing quietly. Another voice? He asked nicely. She jumped on him. A woman across the aisle finally spoke. I saw it. He was calm. She made it ugly. Delacroix spun. Ma'am, stay out of this. Not this time, the woman replied. Louder. Malik spoke into the phone. People are filming now. Good, Xavier said. Let them. Tell me the flight number. Malik read it out. Stay calm. Say nothing else to her. I've got it from here. A male attendant approached Holder, less aggressive. Badge reading G. Norrell. May I see your boarding pass? He asked softly. Malik handed it over. Norrell scanned it, then checked his tablet. He paused, eyebrows raised. You're right, he said. There was a reassignment at the gate. 1 for A is yours. Delacroix turned sharply. That can't be right. The manifest had updated. Norrell interrupted. Last-minute change. His name is in the system. The silence that followed was deafening. Malik didn't gloat, didn't smile. He stepped aside and sat down. 1 for A, his seat. Phone in hand, Delacroix stormed off toward the galley. A few passengers leaned into the aisle, watching her go. Oh, she's going to regret that, someone whispered. Malik's heart was still racing, but he breathed deep. Texted his uncle. Saw it, Xavier replied. Good, let me handle the rest. Back in Oakland, Xavier was already pacing, Bluetooth in one ear, laptop open. His assistant Dominique was pulling flight records, legal codes, media contacts. Xavier didn't waste time. He never did. Civil rights wasn't his job, it was his legacy, and no one was going to humiliate his nephew, not without consequences. On the plane, Malik watched out the window. He wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of having to prove he deserved to exist where he stood. The man beside him, baseball cap, low, arms crossed, shifted and said quietly, She was way out of line. Malik looked over, surprised. You were polite, the man added. I saw it. Malik's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the tense silence. From a few rows away, a young woman in a bright yellow hoodie stood up. Her voice was firm, loud enough for the entire section to hear. If anyone else saw what happened, she said, turning slowly to the passengers around her, save your recordings. Don't delete them. The truth matters. Phones went up higher. You could hear soft murmurs, people agreeing without speaking. Full sentences. In the front, Delacroix was still on the cabin phone. Her tone had changed, lower, unsteady. She had already called Malik non-compliant more than once, but she no longer had control of the story. The passengers had seen too much. Meanwhile, back in Oakland, Xavier Torrance had Blue Air's legal department on the line. The young lawyer who picked up sounded mildly distracted until Xavier introduced himself. "This is about Flight BA4312 out of Sacramento," he said coldly. "My client, my nephew, was publicly harassed, misrepresented, and threatened by your crew member T. Delacroix. I have real-time recordings and multiple eyewitnesses. She refused to verify his boarding pass and attempted to displace him without cause, even invoking federal charges. The line went still at the... I'm not sure I've been fully briefed." "You haven't," Xavier cut in, "but you will be. Because if that plane takes off with her on board and no internal action, you're looking at a civil rights lawsuit before those wheels even leave the tarmac." The silence on the other end stretched. Then the lawyer responded, sharply, "I'll notify the captain. Please hold." Back on the plane, something had shifted. The captain's voice crackled through the speaker's steady, measured, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been informed of a matter that requires immediate attention. We will be returning to the gate. Please remain seated." The entire cabin felt a ripple of understanding. Some passengers exchanged wide-eyed looks. Others nodded silently, like they'd been waiting for this. Malik leaned back, watching the runway slowly rotate out of view as the plane pivoted. Across the aisle, a younger flight attendant, not Delacroix, walked toward him nervously. She knelt beside his row and spoke softly. "I saw what happened, and I'm sorry. That shouldn't have happened to you." Malik gave her a small nod, but didn't speak. She hesitated again, then added, "You handled it better than most adults, I know." Still, he said nothing. He wasn't angry anymore. He was just tired of having to prove he belonged. Then his phone buzzed again. It was Xavier. "She's being removed," he said flatly. "She won't be flying today. They know they messed up. Sit tight." While Malik stayed composed, the airline was in full damage control, and what came next would turn this delay into a national story. When the plane stopped at the gate, the cabin lights brightened. No one moved, but you could feel the shift in energy. Passengers whispered with more purpose. The hum of conversation had turned sharp. The front door opened. 2 airport security officers stepped on board, followed by a blue air supervisor, in a navy blazer. Her face was tight, focused. She scanned the cabin, eyes landing on Malik, and then on Delacroix. "Miss Delacroix," she said, voice firm, "we need to speak with you at the front of the aircraft." Delacroix stood slowly, trying to hold her composure. She didn't look at Malik, not once. As she passed his row, the woman in the yellow hoodie whispered from behind him, "It's about time." Some passengers watched quietly. Others recorded. Most simply waited, phones steady but not raised, ready for whatever came next. It didn't take long. 10 minutes later, the supervisor returned alone. She walked directly to Malik, kneeling so she wasn't towering above him. "Mr. Torrance," she said gently, "we're deeply sorry for what happened. The flight attendant involved will not continue on this flight. You've done absolutely nothing wrong." Malik looked her straight in the eyes. Why did it take a phone call to be treated fairly? The question hit the air like a dropped glass. The supervisor swallowed, then answered quietly, "Sometimes it takes one voice to wake everyone else up." Before she could say more, the captain re-entered the cabin and addressed the passengers. "Thank you for your patience. We are resolving a personnel matter and will resume boarding shortly. Feel free to stretch, but please remain near your seats." Nobody moved. Everyone stayed put, eyes still fixed on Malik. The man beside him leaned closer and said in a low voice, "You've got guts, kid. I've seen grown men fold under pressure like that." Malik didn't reply, but the words landed. Then came an unexpected turn. A different flight attendant approached him, holding a slip. "Mr. Torrance," she said, older this time, voice softer, "we'd like to move you to seat 2A for the remainder of the flight." Malik blinked. "I'm okay here." "It's not a reward," she said quickly. "Just a little more peace and quiet. If you want it." He looked at her, then glanced toward the open curtain of first class. Part of him wanted to stay in, one for A on principle. But he also felt the weight of every stare, every assumption. He stood slowly. "Okay." As he moved forward, passengers didn't just watch, they acknowledged him. A few nodded. The woman in the hoodie smiled. A young man raised a fist to his chest, low but respectful. Malik took his seat into a quiet, still, backpack at his feet. From here, he could see the entire plane. It looked smaller now, but what happened still didn't feel simple. In Oakland, Xavier saw the first viral post go live. A shaky video with over 15,000 views in 10 minutes. Caption: "Teen wrongly accused." On plane, here's what actually happened. He exhaled through his nose. "They're gonna feel this one," he muttered. Dominique looked up. "Want me to draft a statement?" "Not yet," Xavier replied. "Let it breathe." As the plane prepared to take off again, one truth was clear. The real turbulence wasn't behind them. It was just beginning. Within an hour, a trickle of posts became a flood. Videos, tweets, screenshots of Malik's boarding pass, different angles of the same injustice. A teenager wrongly accused, voice that didn't waver, and one phone call that changed everything. Sitting in Tua, Malik barely checked his phone. It buzzed constantly, but he didn't know what to say. Not yet. A flight attendant passed by and offered him water. He accepted it with a small nod. She lingered, like she wanted to say something more, but she didn't. She just walked away. The plane finally took off nearly 2 hours behind. In the terminal, people stared at their phones, watching it unfold in real time. And the boy at the center of it all? He was already 30,000 feet in the sky. By the time Malik landed in Phoenix, he had more than 50 unread texts. His mom had called 5 times. His cousin sent a screenshot of a local news article. Passenger video sparks debate on racial bias in airlines. At the gate, a Blue Air representative was waiting. A woman in her 30s, stiff smile, company, badge pinned tight. "Mr. Torrance," she said as he stepped into the terminal, "we'd like to offer our sincerest apologies. And a complimentary travel voucher for future flights." Malik raised an eyebrow. "That's it?" She didn't. Flinch just smiled tighter. "We're also reviewing internal protocol." He stared for a moment, let it sink in, then asked. Malik stepped into the airport with his hoodie up, passport in hand, and a quiet kind of strength in his walk. He wasn't nervous, he was just used to this. As he approached the counter, the agent greeted him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She glanced at his name, then at his face, then again, at her screen. A silent pause, then a whisper into her earpiece. Moments later, 2 uniformed guards appeared behind her. She handed Malik a voucher and claimed there'd been a seat change. Her words were smooth, but the truth sat sharp underneath. Malik didn't argue. He simply asked, "Did you watch the video?" She blinked, caught, but said nothing. He turned and walked away, calm and controlled, not defeated, just exhausted from being treated like a threat when all he wanted was to go home. Back in Oakland, Uncle Xavier sat in his home office, facing a row of executives on a video call. Their expressions were corporate, their tone rehearsed. They used safe words like miscommunication and standard protocol, but none of them said Malik's name. Xavier leaned in slightly, voice steady and clear. "My nephew didn't raise his voice. He didn't resist. He was profiled. That's the truth." Silence followed, heavy and uncomfortable. One woman cleared her throat and said, "We're prepared to offer something to make this right." Xavier didn't blink. "This isn't about a payout. It's about calling things what they are." Meanwhile, Malik walked through another terminal in Phoenix, earbuds in, but no music playing. He was tuned into the world differently now. A man stopped him, black mid-40s, with kind eyes. "You, Malik Torrance?" Malik nodded. "I saw." "What happened?" the man said. "My son's your age. You didn't yell, you didn't fold. That kind of composure. It teaches." Malik shook the man's hand and moved on. He didn't say much. He didn't have to. On the flight to Atlanta, Malik took a window seat and stared at the clouds outside. For the first time that day, no one looked at him twice. No whispers, no stares, just silence and sky. He leaned his head against the cold glass and closed his eyes. Not to sleep, but to breathe. At baggage claim, his mother spotted him before he could even scan the crowd. She rushed toward him, arms already outstretched, and wrapped him in a hug that said everything. She held on tightly, like she was afraid to let go. When she finally whispered, "Are you all right?" Malik nodded. "Now I am." A flash went off nearby. Someone had taken a picture. But she didn't flinch. She didn't loosen her grip. The car ride home was quiet. The city lights passed like slow blinks in the dark. Neither of them spoke until they turned onto their street. She finally broke the silence. "Your uncle told me what you did. How you kept your cool." Malik looked out the window. "I wanted to scream, but I didn't." She placed her hand on his shoulder. "And that took more strength than they'll ever understand." Inside the house, his little sister had taped a handmade welcome sign to the wall. Crayons, glitter, crooked letters. It made him smile for the first time that day. She didn't know the details, just that her brother was home. Malik sat on his bed later that night, scrolling through hundreds of messages, news stories, comments, strangers trying to praise him, some trying to dissect him. He turned the phone off. He didn't need their words, just a moment to feel normal. The next morning at school, the hallways felt louder somehow. Students glanced at him, unsure of what to say. A few clapped. A few looked away. A teacher placed a hand gently on his shoulder and whispered, "Proud of you." Malik kept walking. He wasn't looking to be a symbol. He just wanted his life back. Across town, Xavier reread the airline's official statement. It was cold, generic, safe. Then he posted something of his own. "My nephew stayed calm because we've taught him to. Because silence gets mistaken for safety, but that shouldn't be his burden. Or any child's." It wasn't a statement, it was truth. And it spread. Later that week, Malik opened a shoebox filled with letters from strangers. Some from teachers, some from kids. Some from parents who didn't know what to say to their own children. He read each one quietly, folded them back just as gently, and tucked them away like something sacred. The news moved on, but Malik didn't. He wasn't angry anymore, just more alert, more still. And maybe that calm they tried to twist into guilt was actually his greatest power. He didn't speak loudly, he didn't throw fists, but he changed more with silence than most could. With a shout, because sometimes, just standing still with dignity is a revolution on its own.